I feel like it's been a while since I did an unboxing. It's good to be back at the table here with all the stuff surrounding me. It's going to be a Rolex unboxing, the Milgauss. I don't have the box in the frame because look how ugly it is, a big white blob. No thanks, I'll bring it back later when I unbox it. This is the Support Act, much nicer looking case in the frame, I think. I like to have a Support Act, as you guys know, something interesting to take a look at just before you see the headliner, the main act, and we'll talk about some other stuff here. Before I get into anything, what am I wearing? I am wearing the Omega Speedmaster. This is the 861 movement, the 145022 with the 1450 bracelet, which resembles a president bracelet. As you can see, really attractive stuff. An amazing watch, one of the best I have in my collection. What are we having? We're going to have some red wine, as we do often on the channel. Usually when I open a watch, especially a Rolex watch, I like to celebrate a bit with a drink. But the bubbly gets me a little lightheaded. I like to stick to some red when I can. This is a very interesting grape from the northeast of Italy called Friularo. And this was a wine that was originally actually given to the Duke at the Duke's Palace here, the Palazzo Ducale in Venice. This was the in-house go-to red. Not a grape you're going to find anywhere else in the world. Italy's kind of funny like that. They have so many different types of grape, so many different varietals. You know, France is 400 or 500. The Americas have less than 100, I would say. But they reckon that Italy probably has well over 1,000. The culture goes way back and they have lots of different variations. Actually, Friularo is really Raboso, which is a well-known varietal, little tough, angry red grape with a lot of acidity in it, a lot of punch. Rabbia is rage in Italian. So Raboso is like an angry little thing. It's full of rage. It describes the characteristics of the grape perfectly. And Friularo is just Raboso from this region. That's all it really is. It kind of disappeared. It went on a hiatus and just kind of disappeared for a long time. A bit like the watch that we're opening tonight. And that's why I thought this was apropos. It was reinvented not so long ago. They brought it back out again, put it back onto the market to see if people would like it, with modern techniques, of course. But I really enjoy this wine. It's actually won a couple of awards here. It's a recommended wine and it comes with a fancy little tag and so on. And it is DOCG, Denominazione Originale Controllata e Garantita, and guaranteed at the end. So it's the region that it's come from, which is up here, is a DOCG region. There's only a certain amount of these in Italy. It's much easier to find DOC, which is slightly lower level. DOCG is the top shit, and certain regions, including Barolo and of course Tuscany, the Super Tuscans, are all DOCG. 2014 vintage, which is always, it's nice that it's been in the bottle for a little while. Not bad. It hasn't been kept on its side. That's a slight disappointment. Otherwise, this would all be blood red here. So it's been sitting like that for a very long time, unfortunately. I always think it's a better thing to hold these wines on their side just to keep this end kind of plump. It means it's going to seal better and there won't be any oxidation of the wine. But anyway, all is not lost. It's probably still good. So you can see there's a certain oranginess to the color around the rim. You see that? Just slightly kind of vibrant orange, not a rust bricked orange like you'll get in a Barolo or an aged Bordeaux, but something a bit more angry, I guess, a little fiery. Yeah, a lot of punch and Yeah, she's feisty. I do want to mention these before I get into the watches. Mirage watch rolls. A lot of watch rolls are very, very expensive for the good ones, for the high quality ones. They're really, really pricey, and it annoyed the hell out of me. So when I found these guys, I just really wanted to plug them because they make excellent watch rolls that are high quality but not crazy money. I believe this one's somewhere around 100, 120 bucks, something like that. Whereas the competitors like Bosphorus and so on, you're looking at way more than that. You're looking at, you know, 300, 400 bucks, maybe 500 bucks. So they have some new additions they just came out with. I'm not sure if you can tell with the light here, but this is a kind of a deep green, almost like a Rolex green. And very nice because of that. A lovely gray interior here. Absolutely beautiful, kind of balances against the green really well. So that holds 3 watches. They have 4 watch versions, which I've shown on the channel previously. And recently they started making single watch versions. Look at that. Great for just popping around with one watch, nicely protected. This is, of course, the Tudor Black Bay, the classic in black. One of my favorite Tudor watches. I think the price on these is, I think it's 59 bucks for these, or 69. And if you look around, you can find discount codes online and so on. MirageLuxuryTravel.com is their website. Okay, great. Let's look at some watches. Every now and then I do micro brands. I get sent watches constantly, and I turn most of these guys down, just different smaller micro brands and so on, looking to see if I'm interested in promoting their product on the channel. And I normally say no thanks and send them back their watch. Sometimes they don't even want their watch back because it has little or no value in some cases. These guys sent me their watch from Belfast, from my home country of Ireland. I mean, Belfast is technically Britain. If you call Belfast from Ireland, you have to dial 0044. So you're calling England, but okay, it was once part of Ireland and it is physically connected to Ireland. And they sent me this watch in this lovely canvas case. Very interesting packaging indeed. They are called Nomadic. Nice few tools they include for sizing the strap and so on, and a little book. And in here we have the watch. And let me tell you why I wanted to show you guys this. Normally, when I see these micro brands, I can poke holes in it immediately. They always fall down in so many different regards. But I have to say, this one really caught my eye. I thought, wow, this is really well put together for a micro brand. So of course Belfast has a shipping industry history. They built the Titanic right there in Belfast, and there are some famous cranes right there on the harbour that will lift and hold the ships and so on, that are big yellow cranes. If you grew up in Belfast, you're probably well familiar with those cranes. I wasn't aware of these until I read up about it, but I guess the yellow on the seconds hand there is to reflect those. This is the Mirai 401. Mirai means seafarer. The theme behind this whole thing is the boats there and the shipbuilding of Belfast. But I can't help but notice the beautiful construction of this dive watch. This is under $1,000. These things are 749, I believe, or 747 in British pounds, which is about 900 in euros and about 1,000 in dollars. Not super cheap for a micro brand, but definitely beating out its competitors. I mean, this looks like a Black Bay 58 or something. It's larger though. This is 41 millimeters in size, so it suits my wrist better than a Black Bay 58. The bezel, of course, is ceramic, sapphire crystal, and so on. And just the overall build of the watch is very nicely put together. I found it to be quite impressive overall. Let me throw it on the wrist real quick so you see what I mean. It's quite comfortable, and it rarely happens for me that I get a micro brand in the mail and I wind up wearing the watch for a few days, and that's what happened with this. Look at that beautiful blue. Now, it originally came in a kind of Black Bay, black and gold, rather like the classic Tudor Black Bay, similar coloring to that. And then just recently they released a emerald green version for Paddy's Day, for St. Patrick's. But this so far is my favorite, this beautiful deep kind of ocean blue. Really, really nice. And I like the yellow off of the blue. It's kind of timely as well, huh? With what's going on politically in the world as well. But I love the way it sits on my wrist, that the head of the watch sits neatly. It's quite a thin watch. It's 11.5 millimeters. A watch like this normally comes in 12 millimeters, 12.5, but this is quite slim, sits very smartly on the wrist, and 316L steel, but it has a bit of a 904L steel look to it, I think, the way it's been brushed and finished. Not bad. Very, very strong effort from these guys. Good bezel action, no backplay whatsoever, very solid. And one thing that really got me going is the lume. Guys, look at that lume. Normally with micro brands, it's just one thing they all get wrong, is the lume. Nobody can figure it out. Lume tends to be pretty bad on watches that are under $1,000, especially, unless you're talking Seiko. Seiko lume is always amazing. So there we have it. It's the Nomadic Mirai 401, and I have to say, for under $1,000, 750 roughly in British pounds, this is definitely a good, solid diver. Well done to them, and hopefully they'll keep on keeping on with their business there. You know, Belfast boys. I don't mind waving the flag for some fellow Irish men. Good stuff, fellas. Well done. All right, so time for the main event. And that means I have to put my gloves on. Once again, I'm not a jeweler. I just got these gloves because they look good on the channel and they'll keep me from smudging up the beautiful Rolex I'm about to unbox for you guys. This one, of course, came with the outer sleeve. Let's get that off. You can see the outer box. Once again, a 5-pointed crown. How many times have you seen that on the channel? Let's get her open. So I needed to finally get my hands on one of these for fear of losing the opportunity of getting one at a reasonable price. So here we go. Look at that. Reference 116400GV, the GV standing for Glace Verte, which refers to that very distinct green crystal right there. There is another version with a black dial where I think the green is more evident. The green here fights against the blue a bit, which makes for an even more interesting watch. But isn't that quite amazing looking? All the usual stuff in the box, as you can imagine, the various books. This classic card here, just marking off that it's acciaio inossidabile, the stainless steel. I love these cards, they're beautiful. Look at that beautiful embossed gold. And of course the usual manuals, booklets. This one is a 2021 watch, so it has the newer style card. I'll turn it around because I covered the serial number with a little tape. And as you can see there, it's the 22nd of April, 2021. Honestly, when I finally got it in the flesh, I'd seen so many photos, so many videos on this watch. I almost felt ashamed that I hadn't bought one of these before. What have I been doing? Why didn't I know this was such a beautiful watch? Now, I'm a fan of the Air King, as many of you may already know. This has pretty much exactly the same case, the same dimensions as the Air King. but it has some different features too. It has high gloss centers, whereas the Air King, it's all satin. And of course, a very different looking dial. Those high gloss go all the way through the clasp, by the way. I have tape on it there just to keep the clasp from scratching up. But look at that dial, isn't it amazing? Originally released in 1956, the Milgauss was designed for people working in electric plants and places around electric equipment and so on. And the whole idea, of course, was that it would have 1,000 Gauss, 1000 Gauss, Milgauss. That's where the name comes from. Mille, of course, is Latin and Italian for 1,000. Milgauss stands for mille Gauss, 1,000 Gauss, which is its resistance to magnetism. You know, these watches are never truly amagnetic unless you're talking about the new watches with a silicon hairspring that are amagnetic. What this has on the inside is a Faraday cage. Of course, Faraday is a very famous scientist, came up with all sorts of things, discovered electromagnetic force, etc., etc. And he developed a cage surrounding that you could put something inside that would deflect the influence of magnetism around it. So that's why they made this kind of slightly thicker case for Rolex, because the whole movement is encompassed in a Faraday cage on the inside. Now, obviously, that's a bit of an anachronism now. Most watches have up to 15,000 Gauss, or they're even amagnetic because their components are made of silicon. So it's really kind of a thing of the past. It's a little bit Flash Gordon to me, this watch. It's kind of funny and cool, and space lasers, you know, it's a bit like that. Now, one thing you'll notice as well is that this clasp is just like the Oyster Perpetual clasps or the Air King. It's just got one snap over. There is no extra clamshell coming over here, which is really nice. It's my favorite clasp from Rolex. It's just nice and simple. Boom, and it's on. Good and solid. So let's take a look at that lume real quick. No date on here or anything like that. Look at that, isn't it cool? It's kind of fighting its way through the green crystal. Incidentally, this is a very expensive crystal to replace. If you break the crystal on your Rolex by accident, you can have it replaced at a fairly reasonable price. I think it varies. But this one is a lot more expensive to replace if it happens to your Milgauss, because that green crystal is very special. In fact, it's the only crystal of the entire catalog in Rolex that doesn't have the little crown etched out down here at the 6th position that you'll find in all other Rolexes. It's a way of helping prevent replicas and so on. Mind you, the replica makers have already figured out how to do that themselves, so much for that. But this is the only crystal that doesn't even have that, because they can't do it. Whatever it is about this particular green crystal, they can't manage to put in that little etching of the crown. So they released a few different versions throughout the 60s and 70s, and for some reason, I'm not sure why, back in 1988 they discontinued the Milgauss. It was no longer in the catalogue and stayed that way for about 20 years. In 2007, they reignited this idea and released one with the GB reference and black dial. So it was the green crystal with black, and then this one, the Z blue with that beautiful electric blue. No anti-reflective coating, as you can see there. If I catch the reflection of my light diffuser there, it just all of a sudden you just get that. You can't read the time at all. This is a very Rolex thing. A lot of other brands don't do that. They put AR coating on the underside and sometimes on the outer side of the crystal. But Rolex have always taken the position that they would like people to be reminded that there's a crystal, that they're looking through a crystal. They don't like the idea of AR coating, which is so old-fashioned, I think, but kind of cool. Nothing on the case back, classic Rolex feature. If we were to open that case back, we would see a large plate with the letter B and an arrow next to it, referring to its anti-magnetic qualities. And again, the clasp, very, very simple, milled out clasp, obviously, but just the simplest mechanism there. You get your nail under it here to release it again. The lovely orange accents there on the dial just sit beautifully against the blue, the big Milgauss there, and the numerals around the edge. And of course, lest I forget, that incredible seconds hand there in the shape of a kind of a lightning bolt, or to evoke the idea of alternating and direct current. So right now these are trading at about 17,000 euros. Only 6 months ago you could have probably gotten one for about 9. So it's really gone through the roof. And I just love it. I mean, look at this thing. It's so interesting, so colorful and playful, but also very serious at the same time. Very, very fun indeed. So there we have it, guys. Some amazing watches. Check out Nomadic. Really interesting, well-built micro brand watches. Good for them. Keep it up, guys. You're doing a good job. I'll definitely be interested to see the emerald one, the new green one that you guys released. Of course, we have the Omega Speedy over here. The classic, the most beautiful watch in my collection, in my opinion. And of course, a dull day for a guy like me to see plastic versions with quartz movements made, but let me not get onto that. Don't get me started. But again, a watch that had its period. It had its time back in the 50s and 60s, early 70s with this space exploration, the human space project, and in a way has a lot in common with the star of the show here, the Milgauss, and its moment that it had many years ago when that was a big worry about electromagnetism and so on in power plants, etc., etc. Things that we don't really worry about anymore now that we have silicon hairsprings and so on. But it definitely reflects a fun era back then. Stunning pieces all round. Hope you enjoyed that, guys. I'm off to finish this bottle off, if I can make it through it. This little angry friolaro. Thanks again for watching the Timeless Watch channel. I will see you in the next one.